Alright guys, with the playoffs almost here, things are definitely going to be heating up on the puck line. And I think most of us can agree on one thing. Money is amazing, am I right? With that being said, as I've mentioned, I've partnered up with Fanduel, which is the perfect way to test your luck and possibly make some bucks along the way. You can choose your favorite players for your own fantasy team, which, might I add, you can make at any time in the season. As you accumulate points, so will you. And, as I saved the best part for last, through Fanduel, you'll automatically receive 20% match of a deposit up to $500. Really, it's free money in a sense. So, if you'd like to possibly make bank and support me, click on the link below to get started. And now, on to the feature presentation. Rivalries. They're what makes the game interesting, especially come postseason, as every single team definitely has those select few opposing players that they're not too fond of. With that being said, in this video, we're going to have a little fun as we go over all 31 teams' most hated opposing players. And with that, here is part 1 of every single team's most hated player to face. Well, as we all know, the Golden State has become quite crowded over the years with NHL teams, as California has a trifecta of teams within the region. Despite having a notable rivalry with San Jose as well, I'm pretty sure, at least from my perspective anyways, that the Ducks and Kings have probably a more heated bout of beef between them. And one of the hardest players, in my opinion, to face, regardless of which team he's up against, is longtime King Dustin Brown. As Brown has a definition of a blue-collar work ethic and isn't afraid to play a little risque when need be for his team, as he's not only a huge pain to play against considering his physicality, but the forward has also been having a renaissance season as he currently has 27 points in 43 games played. Considering their large proximity from other teams around them, it was pretty hard to narrow down a team and furthermore a player in particular that Yotes fans would despise going up against. But considering how fierce Arizona's series against the LA Kings was during the conference finals several years back, I'm pretty sure that Yotes fans haven't forgotten one of the most fiery guys currently in the game, in Drew Doughty, as I think we all can recall his comical meltdown against the team and really how hard he's been to play against for most of his career. Therefore, for the team that I would say on this list that doesn't really have much bad blood towards anyone, number 8 takes the cake here in this one. Similarly to Dustin Brown, Gallagher plays a style of game that can be polarizing to opposing teams, meaning he's so hard to play against due to his in-your-face style of game that, well, it's kind of easy to develop a distaste for Gally if he's not on your team. Excellent net front presence that, similarly to Patrick Hornquist, never gives up in the blue paint. For Boston fans, knowing their lengthy history with the Habs, especially facing number 11, has to be mentally taxing for Bruins fans all around. I think we can all recall the most recent incident that took place last season when Zdeno Chara literally lost it and blatantly cross-checked him in the face, which had to hurt just a little. Even though much time has passed up to this point since the incident in 2011, those in Buffalo still remember, I'm sure, the hit that Milan Lucic threw on an unsuspecting Ryan Miller, causing him to miss time after due to a concussion. Considering how much Miller meant to the Sabres throughout his 11 seasons spent with the club, as long as Lucic is in the league, I think it's pretty fair to say that he's still the most hated opposing player in Sabres land. And the fact that he netted his first goal as a Calgary Flame against them had to hurt that much more. Speaking of Calgary, well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the Battle of Alberta is where it's at here for sure. And in the middle of the chaos is a rivalry between top pest Matthew Tkachuk and tough guy Zach Kassian. From suspensions to turtling incidents that have sparked lots of memes across the interwebs, this rivalry from a spectator looking in is always entertaining to say the least. Every time Kassian sets foot on the ice against the Flames, you know as long as Matthew Tkachuk is in the lineup that the bad blood between them will be evident every time. Speaking of pure entertainment, my favorite series, personally, that took place in the playoffs of 2019 was the series between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. It seemed like, as you would expect considering he's their best player, Alex Ovechkin was always front and center when it came to the series headlines. From the humorous mocking of the refs and Dougie Hamilton to getting ejected prematurely from the contest, I think it's pretty fair to say that the Canes brought out the worst in the grade 8s. And yeah, the fans probably haven't forgotten about it. Since the Blues' inception, really, the Blackhawks and Blues have had an adequate distaste for one another that has always made for good TV. With that in mind, one of the most villainous type characters currently dressing for St. Louis has to be Robert Bortuzzo, as the defenseman has built quite the reputation for himself over the years as being one of those that straddles the line on legality. Therefore, for the fans and players of Chi-Town, number 41 has to be on their radar that much more. Similarly to the Battle of Alberta, it's pretty much a no-brainer, at least if you're a solidified hockey fan, that Colorado and Detroit haven't had any fondness for each other since the famous Lemieux-Draper altercation. Therefore, for Colorado, every time they face players from the Motor City, you know there's going to be hostility. And just knowing how much of a pain Tyler Bertuzzi can be to play against, I feel like Avs fans probably have no love lost when it comes to number 59. While there are other rivalries for CBJ in the vicinity, including the one with Detroit, the distaste that Columbus fans seem to have towards the Pittsburgh Penguins is always unrivaled. Trust me, I've been to games at Nationwide with my Pens jersey on. Just kidding. Fans are actually great there. Anyways, I think out of all players that dress for the Pens, Sidney Crosby is the most obvious choice here, as out of the 8 documented times that number 87 has dropped the gloves, 2 of them have been against the Jackets, and have been heated to say the least. Similarly to Arizona, their proximity away from surrounding teams has in a way kept them out of the crossfires compared to others. But even still, considering that out of their last 3 lost series in the postseason have been against the Blues, paired with the fact that, according to hockeyfights.com, the Stars have fought against them the most, I thought it seemed like the logical choice. And you've got to remember the guy that goes out of his way to spare your captain and the family jewels when it comes to this one. The act from Bortuzzo even got Tyler Seguin going. So if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan and you don't hate Matthew Tkachuk, well, I don't know what's going on, as Tkachuk has been the thorn in Edmonton's side for as long as he's been a Flame. From getting in McDavid's face, from trying to make Zach Kassian's wires cross on a continuous basis, Matthew Tkachuk has been, and probably will be for a very long time, Oilers fans' least favorite player to face. When it comes to the Sunshine State, Florida has been harboring 2 teams that have developed more of a rivalry, especially this season in particular. As both teams have been consistently within the top 4, the distaste has been taking its own form in 2021. And considering the fact that Florida really hasn't had a distinguished rival since the Stanley Cup Finals of '96 against the Avs, to me, Tampa definitely takes the first spot. And with that being said, one of the hardest heavyweights to play against through and through that Tampa has is 2-time Stanley Cup champ Patrick Maroon. As Maroon, as is usually the case with any team, seems to be in the middle of most skirmishes that take place, and isn't shy at all, it seems, when it comes to chirping them from the bench either. It only makes sense here to include Anaheim on the inverse, as the Ducks have been, along with the Kings, fighting for rights for the 5 since day one. I mean, 3 fights in 4 seconds kinda sums it up right there, with the most spirited battle recently between LA newcomer Brendan Lemieux and Josh Manson taking place recently. It's pretty obvious that the distaste still remains between these 2 Californian teams. And one player that definitely has been a thorn most likely in the Kings' side for more than a decade is Ducks captain Ryan Getzlaf. As a power forward, always has a commanding physical presence in games that can easily get one's blood boiling. Trust me, even as a Pens fan, I know this. Therefore, if Getzlaf finally leaves Anaheim after his contract expires, I'm sure Kings fans will not shed a single tear in results. While the Wild, considering their geographical location, have a plethora of rivalries to choose from, really. You've got St. Louis, Chicago, hey, even Dallas if you consider the whole relocation context. Even still, knowing their playoff history and close proximity, I think that despite them not playing each other in the regular season in 2021, it has to be the Winnipeg Jets, as the Jets have unfortunately had their way with the Wild in the playoffs on multiple occasions. And one player that stands out as an antagonist here is habitual scrapper Adam Lowry, as the forward has never been shy when it comes to settling the score and stepping up on the physical play. So if I'm a Wild fan, well, going up against this guy would never be a party in my mind. I mean, out of all names on this list, aside from maybe Matthew Tkachuk's, this one has to be the easiest of all to guess, as the Canadiens and Bruins, as I mentioned, have never been friends on ice. But, you know, Marchand and Gallagher have still managed to be buddy-buddy off of it. Anyways, when he's wearing the Spoked B logo instead of a Team Canada sweater, Marchand is a competitor first and foremost, and is always quick to get under his opponent's skin at the first chance he gets. A few moments that stand out to me are the PK Subban hit, and scrap as well, the time he decided to snow Carey Price in the playoffs, which got Claude Julien's blood boiling, and the questionable hit that he laid on Alexei Emelin around a decade ago. So yeah, Marshy is not loved up in Montreal in the slightest, except, well, maybe still a smidge by Gallagher, and that's still a maybe at that.